And a lot happening where you are, Hannah.
Yeah, it certainly is, Robin. And that amendment that you were just mentioning, it's called the Cooper Amendment, so-called because Yvette Cooper, the Labour MP, has put it forward. And that amendment is getting a boost because Yvette Cooper's own party, the Labour Party, has decided now to support it. So presumably she will have a lot of support, at least from her colleagues on her side of the House. Another key amendment up for a vote later today involves making changes, significant changes, possibly at least, to the Irish backstop, which has, of course, been one of the biggest sticking points throughout this whole process. Bianca Nobilo is watching everything unfold, as you have been for far too long now. Can't even go into it. Let's talk about how it's all going to play out later today. They'll start voting. There's a certain order, and then does it mean anything?
OK, well, to work backwards, they're not legally binding. So even if any of these amendments was to get a majority, there is no legal compulsion for the government to take action. However, Theresa May is Prime Minister of a minority government. She has a confidence and supply arrangement with the DUP, so she can't really command the confidence of the House easily. So she's going to need to listen to what the House of Commons declares its support for today.
Now, Nigel is a Conservative MP and voted Leave. Welcome to you. Will you support this so-called Brady amendment that's being put forward later, this idea of having an alternative to the backstop that's currently in place?
Yeah, last week, Graham and I and 4 other officers of the 1922 went to see the Prime Minister in Downing Street. We told her where the real problem was, and that is with the backstop. And with the backstop there, had the treaty gone through, then we wouldn't have been able to have governed because we wouldn't have the support of the Democratic Unionist Party.
Right.
So I've signed Graham's amendment. I will be voting for it tonight, and the most exciting thing about it is it now appears that a number of other people within the Conservative Party, where there was a standoff before, are now coming together on this particular amendment.
So you think that it could get through, that it will be voted
I think there's still a small number on my own side that will refuse to, but I think they're very small. The DUP will now vote with a Brady amendment, and if we can just take a small number of Labour MPs, those who've actually voted with us because their own constituencies voted Leave and they actually believe in Brexit, then I think we can get it through.
Is the backstop, the question of the Irish backstop, the only sticking point for you when it comes to Theresa May's plan?
Listen, there's lots within the withdrawal agreement I don't like. But
you'll support her.
It's compromises, and
right.
I am prepared to make this compromise. And overnight, the 2 wings of the Conservative Party, those who are pro-EU and those who are pro-Brexit, have come together to look for a compromise solution, and that's something I think that now we can make progress on.
This is this idea of a sort of a plan C, if you like, isn't it? So it's the Remainers and Brexiteers sort of coming together, and saying that to avoid a no-deal situation, if there isn't actually a deal, we'll still have plans in place so that the whole country doesn't fall into chaos, if you like.
It sort of removes the backstop problem and extends an implementation period by up to 12 months, during which time the European Union 27 and the UK start talking about what sort of trading relationship they're going to have. And of course, if we're offered something like Canada Plus, which we already were in the past, and Michel Barnier is prepared to go a little bit further when he said last week about maybe facilitating an arrangement on the Northern Ireland island situation, which will not result in a hard border, then we're there.
Well, one thing that I'm a little bit confused about with this is that this idea of having a transition period, even in the event of no deal being agreed by March 29th. Would the EU even contemplate that?
I think they would, and I'll tell you why. Because
money.
Money, absolutely. They're going to get 39 billion as it already is up until the end of 2020 to do the managed leaving with on WTO rules, if you like. If we never came to an agreement at the end of 2021, there's going to be more money involved in that. I believe, though, because we've got a £95 billion deficit with the European Union, there is an incentive for both the EU27 and the UK to get some form of deal done.
Final question then, why not support the Cooper amendment from the opposition benches, which would just delay Brexit and give more time for a debate, for perhaps Parliament to become more involved in the negotiations with the EU to actually get a finalised deal?
What Yvette Cooper's amendment does is kick the can down the road so that you don't actually leave until maybe at the end of 2019. You then have to spend billions more whilst we carry on the wrangle. What Theresa is saying is, no, let's take something to the European Union, let's leave on March the 29th and ensure then we can start the transition into the sort of new arrangement that is going to exist between the EU27 and the UK.
Nigel Evans, thanks very much for talking to us
Pleasure.
today. We appreciate it. So it has come to this then, the Prime Minister acknowledging there must be changes to the Irish backstop in order to avoid a no-deal Brexit. Nick Robertson is in Westminster as well, joins me now. Nick, what would a good day look like to Theresa May come sort of 10 o'clock tonight London time?
Well, I think in reference to the sort of two amendments you've been talking about there, the Cooper Amendment and the Brady Amendment, that she would have resounding support on the Brady Amendment going back to the European Union. She has now said opening up withdrawal agreement and getting the backstop changed to alternative arrangements, and the Yvette Cooper Amendment that says let's delay Article 50, let's not try to trudge off the cliff, as some people call it, on the 29th of March without a deal.
One of the main amendments that we've been talking about a lot is this so-called Brady Amendment that Bianca, you were just referring to as well. Carol, I put it to you that is it the case that now many of the Brexiteers, the hardline Brexiteers in the Conservative Party, are starting to concede that they have to get on board with at least part of Mrs May's deal and this particular amendment in order to avoid there being the potential, at least, of no Brexit at all?
That is the calculation that quite a few of them have made. Graham Brady's amendment basically says, let's get rid of this backstop, which everyone hates because it ties the UK into so many of the rules and regulations of the European Union in order to avoid a hard border. The Graham Brady amendment says, let's look at alternative arrangements to avoid that hard border without defining what they are. And although last night it seemed that many of the hardline Brexiteers were not going to vote for it, Theresa May has now thrown her weight behind it. She's saying to Tory MPs that they should vote for it, and many of them may be deciding now that the best prospect of keeping Brexit on track is going to vote for that Brady Amendment. But, you know, it only needs a handful or so of Conservative MPs not to vote for it, and the amendment will fall, and the Prime Minister will be left to go back to the EU to try and renegotiate something empty-handed.
And on that note, in the past 15 minutes or so, I was texting two deeply Eurosceptic Conservative MPs, so Brexiteers. Now, that's precisely who the Brady Amendment is aimed at. And one of them said to me, yes, I'll be supporting the amendment. That was on record. That was Daniel Kaczynski. And the other, off record, said to me, and he's deeply Eurosceptic, said, I'm still deciding. I'm not sure if I want to put my name to it because it is so vague. And you raised that point last hour.
And we were talking to Ben Bradley, others earlier on as well, just in the last few hours, still undecided as to how they will cast their vote later on. Bianca, Carol, thanks very much.